Hello and welcome back to the Project 7890. This week we are hopefully putting the engine in. It's a bit of a lump, so we're going to have to get some help with it. I might have a son available to me today if he's not on his PlayStation, so we'll aim to get that done. That's the main objective for today's video, get the engine in. If it doesn't happen, sorry. Other stuff's been going on, doing a lot of cleaning, exhausts, electrical cables, plugs, side stand, frame, all the kind of stuff. So basically I've concentrated on obviously the area where the engine's going, where I'm not going to be able to get to after it's fitted. I've got all that clean. The rest of the bike does need a proper clean, so don't hold me to that. Once we get that done and the engine's in, it's like throttle body's on, battery, exhaust, all the good stuff to get bolted onto it. But the main objective is today is just try and get this bike with its heart back in, so hopefully it'll hang in okay. But bear with me because I may be using some unorthodox methods to get it in. I'll describe what's kind of going on here at the moment in a little clip later, but otherwise I think we're good to go for the engine getting bolted in. It's exciting. Welcome to the 7890 project. Just been swapping across the gear selector from here to here. Quite an easy job. I've also got a Vanache little gear selector module protection, just transferred it over as well. One thing I have noticed though is on these engines there is a brace here. I don't know if you can see it. That's the 790 brace between sort of the shift selector and the alternator area. But when you go across to the 890, you can see it's absolutely been beefed up. There's a big like gusset almost on it. So again, wee differences. These are the kind of incremental improvements that KTM seem to make on their engines as they go through. I think you just call it agile development, but they've obviously had a problem here before, and that's an improvement, I guess. It may have changed again in the later 890s. Let me know. Continuing the clean up and getting the bike ready for the swap. Excuse the noisy chair. Obviously, this is the alternator cover. You've got rectifier, plug. You've got your crank position sensor. You've got your two coil packs there with the connections. You've got your gear selector, so you've got your quick shift modules and gear modules. I don't know the exact name of these, so please excuse me. But around the front, there's sort of no sensors at all here, really. Obviously, you've got your thermostat in this area here. You've got your exhaust studs. I'm still waiting for those to come in. They've been ordered. Coming around this side though, you start picking up a few more sensors. So you've got your oil pressure switch. So that's your oil pressure. So that's above the oil feed to the camshaft tensioner. So whenever your oil light goes off, that's the switch that switches it off. And then you've got your temperature gauge, which no doubt goes into the water jacket and just lets you know what you're running. But other than that, there's not really anything else sensor wise on the engine. So when I go to plug it in, it's going to be fairly easy to snap in. And the best thing about it is when you come over here and you start looking at all these plugs for various bits and bobs, they're all different. So basically every switch, there's a male and female, which is different from each other. There's very few switches that are the same. The only ones I can think offhand would be for the coil packs. And I think there'll be a left and right one, and they're fairly self-explanatory because they're on this side or that side, which one they plug into. So yeah, it's all good stuff. I mean, things like side stand switch is there. It's completely independent, although I may delete the side stand switch. I do have a smart moto module for that. But other than that, you know, I've been cleaning the loom up and stuff, just getting rid of all the dust and just getting things ready for popping the engine in the next few days. But, you know, I'm just waiting on parts now coming, and I think it's going to be a pretty much, you know, it is going to be fairly simple swap. These modules here, I believe, are all to do with like the ECU. I think these are like tilt modules, anti-wheelie, all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, you know, it all looks fairly simple. The plugs, as I said, OBD. Every plug is unique almost, so it should be fairly simple. Anyway, back to cleaning. Okay, just while we've got the 790 engine block here, obviously this is the lower casing, upper casing. This is the clutch area here. You'll see here you've got the gear selector, and I've been running a factory Pro Shift arm. I don't know whether that's what it is. Apparently it's got a ceramic bearing. If you've ever had those false neutrals, you used to get those false negatives, so you might go for a gear and it just doesn't quite go in right. This kind of fixes it a wee bit. It's a stronger spring on it, and it's a bearing rather than a bushing, because on the original OEM it's actually just a bush, so it's basically just a piece of aluminium inside that spins around a bush, and it sometimes didn't give you quite a good positive engagement, but that's quite a strong spring there. So I'm just going to remove this and have it ready to fit into this 890 engine whenever she's ready. Welcome to another Teach You How to Suck Eggs. This is a Smart Moto side stand switch eliminator. Open the packet, find the side stand switch cable that runs up here, and find the cable. I think it's got a blue end on it. I had it last night in my hand. No, it's not. It's got a white end on it. Looks like that. It'll be sitting about here on your frame. Plug this in. Side stand switch eliminated. I'll probably not be fitting my wire at all. I'll just leave this in. Sorry, I needed 2 hands to fit that. Took all of about half a second. That's what it looks like. Smart Moto. Okay, one of the other things I'd highly recommend is get yourself a repair manual. They're easily downloadable from KTM.com if you search, but there are some available on eBay, etc. They're usually a digital download, but I went to a print shop and got it printed. It's probably about 20-30 quid, unfortunately, to print these days, but it's so valuable when just looking up references and things like that. I've got things, post-it notes and just notes in general in there. Really good for finding odd bolts, sizes, torques, etc, etc. Perfect to have. Thoroughly recommend it. I also bought the 890 Duke one, or the 890 Duke R one, and it's a digital download, so I just reference it on the computer in the house. It's just easy to read and just check stuff and make sure things are the same or not the same, if the case may be. So that's another top tip. Okay, we were cleaning the engine pretty much all week. You can see the front of it there. I've got most of it. Some of it is actually just a bit of corrosion on it, so you can see you know, where the bike's maybe been neglected a wee bit in the salvage yard. It's gotten away, but insides it still looks okay. You've seen some of that footage. Up top it looks fine. On the sides you can see it's I've changed the water pump. I've also done the put a new gasket seal in there as well, and some Hylamart gasket sealant, the kind of non-drying sealant in there as well. Hopefully that'll hold it all steady with no leaks. Down below you can see quite prominently the side of it. It's looking quite good this side. As you can see, big no oil sticker on it. I have drained the oil out of it. It was fairly black in it, so I reckon it's been sitting there for a while. So the plan is to run, I've got fresh 3 litres of oil. I bought some cheap oil from Opie Oils, got some Repsol, fully synthetic of course. I'll run it through a few times, throw a couple of filters in it, just swap out the oil a few times after, once you get it up and running. But I fitted the Camel ADV 1-finger clutch. I've had that on my bike since almost new. It makes the lever feel a lot better for me. Other people are different. Around the back, we've got it all cleaned out. Again, just keeping the intake blocked up. It's all cleaned in here. It's nitty. It's just all the nitty gritty bits, and trying to get in around here is quite hard. But there's the mount for the frame. Starter motor's cleaned up okay. The back of the engine looks pretty good actually. Better than my 790. I've got in around the back of the sprocket all nice and clean as well. I think it's out of gear. I fitted that in the last video I think you saw, I can't remember. That's now on. Give that a good clean, and that's once all torqued up to spec. You know, but these are now all torqued up to spec, hence the paint marks. And of course, new filter, and you can probably just about get the camera in there. That's a Charlie Nut magnetic oil filter cap. So what that does, it basically converts your oil filter into one big massive magnet and grabs all the little bits of metal that may be floating around a new engine. So I'd recommend one. I had one in the 790, and I think it's probably one of the reasons why my cams was actually quite good, or quite not worn as much, because there wasn't any like material in the oil, because it was all stuck to that. But yeah, we're getting there. The clean continues, and in fact, we might even get this fitted today. Okay, onto the pile of junk that's on the floor. Things here are fuel line with an inline filter. This is a Rottweiler part. I've had this fitted on my bike for a few years now. Really, really good thing. I took the Gulan filter out yesterday, which is just basically like a steel mesh, just to stop any fuel. Hit it with a bit of carb cleaner, so that's nice and fresh, ready to go. What else did I clean? Side stand is back to kind of factory fresh. Well, barring some of the paint off it, giving it a good clean. Springs all nice and lubed up. I've also taken off the side stand switch and done a side stand eliminator. There's my Samco hose, which I've cleaned a bit. That's for the radiator. Speaking of which, the radiator is one of the things I'm concerned about. The back of it is a little bit flaky. You can probably just see if I move the camera down, you can see a little bit here. It's kind of breaking away. It is 5-year-old. Well, almost 6 actually. So I don't know if that's maybe going to be something which I need to consider replacing. Because obviously if the engine's getting hot, that's what I want to be cooling it. One of the catalytic converter still rattles. If you can hear that, I think the bit of the piston still. I give it a good clean up. You'll maybe see from the pictures. If you've been following some of my socials, give it a good scrub, wire wool, tar remover, a bit of autosol, and then I've also done the headers as well. So the headers are sort of cleanish. Not too worried about them. I'm not really into shiny exhausts. Well, apart from my Acura, which I've given a good clean as well in the corner there. Otherwise, the front frame for the bash guard, etc., just give it a clean up. Just the usual stuff. Air box is still to be done. You'll see, it's hard to tell. You see it's got a bit of a sheen on the inside of it, if I put it in the light. That was full of a lot of oil. One of the signs that my piston, something was wrong with it, so that's still to be cleaned up, but I'm not really worried about that now. The priority is to get that into the gap that's in here. So the prep I did here was all of the plugs, that's the horn, don't worry about that. All of the plugs I've given a good clean. You know, everything's been wiped down, given a wee bit of a silicone spray and stuff on all the cables and things like that. So you can see all the switches and sensors and fuse box and stuff have all been cleaned. Got rid of most of the Spanish dust that was been lying about in here in a few laps of ABR Festival. So that's all clean. So that's the bike kind of ready for the engine. Plan is, obviously, the engine mounts on this swing arm. So if I take that out, that's just going to drop. So I'll probably stick an axle stand in, block of wood or something similar, just to keep the back end high. I'm hoping the spring will then hold it, or the shock will hold it up a wee bit. And then obviously I'll fit the engine in. I think I'll leave the throttle bodies off because of this. I could take the shock out, but then I'm going to have to suspend the bike. So I'm hoping to jack it up. I might have to use one of these peg mounts or cat mounts to sort of hold it up. But the engine's generally going to go in here, twist up, click, and then bolt it into here. So it's top mount, bottom mount. So fingers crossed the mounts will all be fairly straightforward. And I just need to pull these wires out of the way and then feed them down. Main concerns are also all the cable routing. I want to try and get it as OEM looking as possible, so I've ordered a load of bloody cable ties off Amazon today, which should arrive later today, or yesterday I should say I ordered them. They will hopefully arrive today, and then once I get all this in, then I can get all the cable tidied up. Only one question is, there's a wee spade here. It looks like an earth point, but I'm sure it's just for a sensor, but the fact that it's not painted, I'm just wondering if there's a cable, and I can't find it connects to it, but obviously that goes there. So if anybody knows what that is, let me know. And I think it is just a plastic spade connector that goes onto it, i.e. One of these types of things that just clicks onto it and then hangs off it. But this will all get tidied up as we go through the day, weeks, whatever. But yeah, I think we're almost there. We're ready for a lift. They've told me it's a 2-person job. We'll see. Okay. That wasn't as difficult as what I thought. I hadn't actually lifted the complete engine by itself, but it actually lifted onto this pretty well. Sorry for the bright light, but the sun's out this morning for a change. So she's strapped down, she's fairly solid. She's only sitting on this block of wood, not fixed to the lift. So hopefully I'll now be able to wheel it over and put it into the actual engine bay. Engine bay says into the frame. Again, I've hopefully should have made enough room. I'm going to move that foot peg out of the way and then I'll start moving it. Here goes. Okay, right, we've got the spindle out. I'll show you what I've done. I've used a bit of an axle stand to get the spindle out, and I'm using a 3/4 extension as a bit of an improvised tool. You'll see it probably better from the other side here. 3/4 extension just fits that hole perfect. In fact, they're virtually the same size as the actual spindle. Maybe a bit of thought by KTM after all, but the plan is to stick a shorter extension in here just to hold that swing arm whilst I manoeuvre the frame in. And then once I can do that, once I get the engine in, there'll be weight on the engine when it's on the jack. I can lift it up a little bit and then get the spindle, wiggle it in. I may even bolt the front bolts in first, but we'll see how we get on. It's a bit of a unit to be manhandled, so I may need some help with this bit, but I'm going to try my best. But as you can see, that just fits in there. I'll do that to hold the swing arm, and then that should keep everything nice and stable. Fingers crossed I don't lose any. Okay, another little update. As you can see, the engine's kind of sitting in this like almost normal configuration in relation to the bike, but you can see the gap is quite narrow with regard to getting it in. So the engine's got to be tilted this way and then pushed in and then tilted back. So the plan is to get a block of wood under the engine to get it more vertical, the actual cylinders. You see the angle they're at. So if I tilt the cylinders that way a bit, or I should say that way a bit, and then put it into the frame, it should be better and easier to do. Oh well, I'll keep the updates coming. Bit of work to be done getting it at the right angle, but I've got one engine mount in. This has all been done solo. One engine mount there, one engine mount there. So the plan is to forward tilt the engine, get these in, get the spindle in, and that should be her fitted. Only slight problem I have is that the brace that goes above the shock that fits into here, yeah, you can see the problem. I've got to take that off, put it up here, and then try and refit it. But fingers crossed that shouldn't be such a problem because it's loose already. And I think it's just one big bolt that goes underneath the throttle bodies or underneath the intakes. So thankfully I had the throttle bodies out, or else this was not going in. So top tip for you there, if you're fitting this engine, throttle bodies off or shock out. I think that's the only way to do it. I think that's the way the manual says anyway, but who needs a manual? As you can see, the engine has got quite a bit to go until it reaches the spindle location. So the plan is to, the jack's obviously taking the weight at the minute, is to jack it up, obviously remove this, jack it up, get it in line, get this top mount in, because that mounts beside where the top shock is, excuse the camera angle, which is here. 2 bolts in there, and then that holds that brace, or engine mount, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, we're getting there. All done by myself so far, so fingers crossed, not had to cry for help, or chopped any fingers off, but there's time yet. Okay, that's the engine now in, as you can see. A few things to note. Obviously this bracket here, engine mount, is a little bit tricky to operate if you don't take the boots off the intakes. It was trapped initially underneath here, so I had to take it off. There's only 1 bolt there, 2 bolts there, but that's the main brace. The method I used was I went in underneath, jacked her up, put bolt in the lower mount, and then kind of pivoted around it. I was a little bit worried about clearance on this side. A little bit worried about clearance here, but there is a few little witness marks there where it has touched the swing arm as it's rotated up into the frame. But all in all, it went in okay. I've just got to get the spindle through here, which will be the next challenge, but I'll just need to get a jack in and put it up. But overall, it looks like it's always been there. Obviously I've got to torque everything up, but she's in, and now it's just a case of plugging in all the wires, putting some oil and coolant in her, throwing the tank on and hitting the start button hopefully. But yeah, and that was all done by myself. So people tell me it's a 2-man job. If I was to do it again, I could probably do it a lot quicker, but yeah, it's in. Time to move on. Almost done. Okay, I've just run a wee bit of a snag. It's getting quite hard to get this swing arm back in, so I've taken the back wheel off and I've put a jack under it just to raise it up a bit, but I'm actually going to take the shock out just to give me a bit more manoeuvrability with it left to right. One thing I will warn you, anybody taking this rear bush out of the rear shock, be super careful. And that one there is a left-hand thread, and it's prone to a bit of galvanic bonding or whatever they call it. It hopefully should turn. If it doesn't turn, I'm not forcing it, because I have broken a swing arm in the past and it's still hanging up there when I broke it last time. So just be warned, it's a left-hand thread, this one. It's a 14mm socket, so righty-loosey, as they say. So wish me luck. Okay, here it goes. Let's see if it moves. Oh, we're in luck. Fantastic. It moved. I had myself a wee bit of a panic there. I thought to myself, this insert in the back of the engine might have been a different size, but it is the same size. I've just test fitted it. What the problem is at the moment is that this is a little bit skew with all the engine mounts and stuff. So I think what I'm going to have to do is loosen everything off, let the engine kind of settle, and see if we can get this through. Once I get it through, I'll fit it, leave it, tighten everything up, and then hopefully it'll sit nice and square. But at the moment, because I've put the engine in a bit half cocked, I expect that's what the problem is. So I'll loosen everything off and then have a jiggly wiggly bit with this, with it lifting the frame up and down. As you can see, the swing arm's off. It's an easy job. Once you get the back wheel up and get a bit of support in the engine, it's quite easy to take off. Again, it's that bolt. Bolt is the scary one. But otherwise, no, it's all good. It just takes time. Okay, that's the spindle in. So that should be every bolt hole now set up. So I'll give the frame a couple of wee lifts, jiggle it about a bit, and then that's the reference point. That's probably why KTM say put the rear spindle in first. Hey ho, live and learn. So there's that bolt that sticks into the swing arm. You can see it's starting to corrode, a little bit of corrosion around it. I did stick a little bit of anti-seize in the last time I fitted it. Be really careful with that in the swing arm. Those do break, and when they break your swing arm, and there's probably a new swing arm required, just so you know. But if you're ever working on it, just make sure you cover this in anti-slip. I used mountain bike anti-seize part tool, and it seems to have done the job. It's been in there now, well, I would say a good 2.5 years. So I'll do the same again. I'll give it a clean up, bit of Scotch-Brite, because that fixes everything KTM, and we'll sort it out. Be good as new. And I mentioned earlier on about the anti-seize compound, which is it's just mountain bike stuff. Anti-seize compound ASC1, I think they still make it. This is an old tub, so you need to give it a good squeeze and a shake before you use it. Apply it to the threads, apply it to the bush, stick it in your swing arm. Good to go. Absolutely smothered. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like all I've been doing is cleaning this whole project. Had the swing arm out, everything's clean. Just the rear mud flap to do, or the hugger, or whatever it's called. This is when you see the difference of the pivot bolt whenever you've lined the engine up. As you can see, it's kind of moving a bit freer now. So what I'm planning to do now is get the swing arm back on, get the shock reconnected, and then that's quite a bit done today. By the way, I haven't shown you that my engine's in. Okay, so that is the engine fit into the frame, complete. You can see it's basically looks the exact same as a 790. No difference at all on the outside. As I come around, you'll see I have done all the swing arm stuff. The spindle's back in. Took a wee bit of jiggery pokery with that, just to get it to line up. You can see there, this is a well-known phenomenon with the chain guides on KTM swing arms. The dirt gets underneath them and then just grinds away at it. Nothing really more than cosmetic. You could hit it with a bit of spray, or some people stick on like a bit of mastic tape underneath it just to stop it from bouncing about. I might do that this time just to keep it kind of start from eating away at it. Plans are maybe to get it ceramic coated at a later date, but we'll see how we get on with that. Trying to negotiate the jack. As you can see, everything in there is really tight fit with that shock. It's you can see earth cables and things like that. So the next step's going to be starting to plug things back in. Come around this this jack. Everything's all torqued up here, all where it should be. You can see it's plenty of room at the top with no battery box in it. But once that wiring starts coming down and getting into the sensor side of it and whatnot, but otherwise just kind of all looking good. What I might do now is drop some oil into her just to keep fresh, because I may turn her over on the starter just to make sure everything's okay. Well, if it isn't at this stage, I've got a bit of work for me, so I thought I would do it sooner rather than later. But as I said, that was single-handedly putting in an engine into a KTM 790, 890, and now it is the 890. It's starting to take shape. It's a really good process. This actually, I'd recommend anybody doing this to the bike if they've got a bike they really like and they've maybe invested a lot of money in it, suspension or other bits and bobs. You know, if something goes pop, being able to get a replacement engine's absolutely brilliant idea. You know, it's cheaper than a new bike, as I keep telling my wife, but not far off a new bike, to be honest. But yeah, that's it. I'm pretty stoked that that's all happened today. It's not even lunchtime yet on the Sunday, so I've managed to get that in the morning, get it all tightened up. Engine's torqued. I'll just go around and do the bolts with paint. The rear ends needs to be properly torqued. We've learned about that bush. That was a good teaching point for me a few years ago when that broke. I'll maybe try and dig out the picture and insert it here of what it looked like when it broke last time. But otherwise, really good opportunity to clean in around the frame. I've got dirty cables and stuff. Back brakes go back in, a few bits and bobs. But otherwise, it's taking shape. Just a wee bit of dirt and dust in there, but I suppose that's just telling a story. The bike has been ridden off-road in quite dusty conditions, both here in the UK and abroad. But no, I'm really chuffed. I'm pleased that I've done this myself. Great learning process to just learn about the bike. And the next job, big job, probably will be rebuilding that 790 engine. But I'll do that slow time, and that could be another project. The Project Resurrection. We'll think of a name for it, no doubt. But we'll keep on the 7890 theme, I think, for the moment. And yeah, I'm chuffed. You can probably tell.